to Daily Dose. The bromance continues today between Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This was the first moment that they met. Look at that bro hug at the airport right when Modi got off the plane. Modi was treated to a full state ceremony and honor guard, and then he joined Netanyahu in a pretty packed day of touring in Jerusalem. They went to Yad Vashem Holocaust Remembrance Center, then a visit to nearby Mount Herzl National Cemetery, and a stop at the grave of Zionist visionary Theodor Herzl. This is the first visit in history by any Indian prime minister to the Jewish state. The two countries are celebrating 25 years of official diplomatic ties and increased cooperation on defense, agriculture, and business.
We receive you with open arms. We love India. We admire your culture. We admire your history, your democracy, your commitment to progress. We view you as kindred spirits in our common quest to provide a better future for our peoples and for our world.
The people of Israel have built a nation on democratic principles. They have nurtured it with hard work, greed, and the spirit of innovation. You have marched on regardless of adversity and converted challenges into opportunity.
To talk more about this very important story, I have with a guest me in studio, Tanvi Madan, the director of the India Project with the Brookings Institution. We also have at the King David Hotel right now, Jordana Miller, where these two leaders once again set to make public remarks, as well as sign several documents. Jordana, thanks for being with us. What exactly will they be doing in a little bit behind you? What documents and agreements are they going to sign after they make their remarks?
Well, Jeff, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Prime Minister Modi will sign a range of MOUs, memorandums of understanding, in a variety of fields, from water to agriculture to space and tech. This is really one of the cornerstones of this visit, to really boost economic ties and trade and cooperation between Israel and India, and that will kind of come to a pinnacle here today with the signing of all those documents. Now, we spoke earlier today with Yuval Steinitz. He, of course, is the infrastructure minister, also in charge of water and energy, and he told us already about two documents that have been signed in the field of water. Take a listen.
I met already, spoke a few times with Indian energy ministers, and we are going to meet again soon. And also in the water area, we signed yesterday two agreements about Israeli assistance to India about how to purify sewage, and recycling sewage, how to desalinate water, how to save water. In all the water system, the Israeli water system, national water system, federal water system, is the most advanced in the world. And India have, of course, many problems in this field, and we will be happy to work together.
Jordana, you've been following along. Can you see that these men genuinely have a personal affection towards each other? Does it come across in their small talk? And could this actually translate into jobs and investment and increased diplomatic support?
Well, absolutely. There's no doubt that there seems to be a really warm relationship between Modi and Netanyahu. And by the way, this morning we were covering Modi's visit with President Reuven Rivlin, and there it was also a kind of bromance, with both of them lavishing affection and admiration onto one another. Rivlin called Modi one of the greatest leaders of a democracy today, and in return Modi said that India supports Israel, is for Israel. So really a lot of admiration. And it seems that this is some kind of turning point in the relations between Israel and India, where it will translate into investments. For example, we know that there's going to be a new $40 million investment fund set up between Israel and India, with both parties putting in half the money, as well as we said before, more agreements signed in space and water and agriculture. So the push here really seems to be to enhance advance this relationship and take it to a new level and really set the tone for the next 25 years.
All right, and let me bring into this conversation, Tanvi, you know, so much, we've covered so many headlines concerning the monumental defense agreements they signed, missile defense technology selling to the Indian Navy. But behind the scenes, there's so much dealing with technology, water conservation, agriculture. In fact, Modi today will be visiting students studying that, biology students. How important is that moving forward, those kinds of not military technology, but agriculture and other fields?
Extremely important. In fact, what you've seen Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Netanyahu do, including in the joint op-ed they wrote for an Indian newspaper, they've made sure to emphasize these fields. Defense barely found a mention. And the idea has been to talk about issues that will touch far more lives in India. It's extremely important also because it creates constituencies for India in states in India, not just in New Delhi, but will affect farmers, who also happen to be a very important constituency for Prime Minister Modi as he goes into electioneering over the next 2 years. So very important from a livelihood perspective, but also in terms of getting Israel a support base in India that's far larger than just politicians.
What do you think diplomatically Netanyahu wants to see after this? More increased support internationally at the UN and the international stage?
I think he'd like it. I think he'd possibly even like India to change its voting perhaps at the UN even further. But I think he also recognizes that there are certain things that India has to keep in mind, including balancing its relationships not just with the Arab states, but with Iran as well. So to some extent, I think he will want more support, but he'll also have a recognition of the limits of that. But I think this visit itself has already given him the kind of visible, supportive and very affectionate relationship from a leader who has had a few very high-profile visits recently.
Is not going to Ramallah, not going to the West Bank.
Not this time. It is a departure for Indian prime ministers, actually, for a number of world leaders. When the Indian president came a couple of years ago, he did go. The Indian foreign minister went when she came. But I think Modi is trying to make a point about what they call dehyphenation, that they will have relationships with Israelis and Palestinians on parallel tracks, and they are going to move forward with both of them. This is a country that visited or hosted Abu Mazen just in May, and refers to him as the president of the state of Palestine. So the government, in some senses, has also moved further in a de facto recognition. Modi's reiterated his support for a two-state solution.
And Jordana, let me bring you back to the last word. Give us like a 30-second wrap-up of what's ahead today. This is their first public meeting, then what's to follow?
Right. So I want to tell you about one thing that's actually going to precede this meeting, and that is the meeting that the Prime Minister Modi is going to have with a young boy named Moshe Hotzberg. He is, for those of us who remember the terror attacks in Mumbai in 2008 that cost nearly 200 lives and 9 Israelis, he was the young toddler in the Chabad house, the Jewish religious center, who was saved by his Indian maid as his parents were being gunned down by terrorists. Now, he was brought to Israel, and his Indian maid was given citizenship, and today Modi, along with Netanyahu, will visit little Moshe, who now is 12 or 13 years old. So that's going to be a very emotional moment, and we hope to see some pictures from that. Later today, Modi will head to Tel Aviv, where he will meet with some of the Indian Jewish community, thousands of people who live here but who still consider India part of their home, their heritage. So that will be very interesting.
And then a big speech later tonight. No, Jordana, thank you so much for being with us from the King David in Jerusalem, waiting for that press conference to begin. Tanvi Madan.